Well, good morning, sunshine. In this video, I'm transforming an old record into a vibrant mandala masterpiece, and I'm using the label as the basis for the palette. I've coated the record in Liquitex Pouring Medium, and that cuts the glare and gives the vinyl a nice matte finish. You can see in my previous video, Hate Ring Light Glare, where I test out different sealers and markers to get a beautiful finish like this. I'll be using a basic 16-section mandala template, and I always mark out the number of sections on the template, and a Fons & Porter mechanical fabric pencil. First, I center the template hole with the hole in the record, and then using the chalk pencil, I mark out the 16 sections. Then, using just a basic plastic ruler, I connect the marks to make the pie sections, but I leave out the label. I use a Mr. Pen compass, a chalk pencil, and a piece of cardboard to sit the record on and mark out the circle guidelines. Now, I didn't really use any measurements. I'm just kind of eyeballing where I want the circle grids to be. Now, before I start, I always have some laminate that I place over the piece so I can make sure my dots will fit perfectly. It's a great way to practice. Nothing's worse than getting to the end of a row and not having enough room for a full dot. And the great thing is these dried on dots scrape right off, so you can use this over and over and over again. I've decided that a number 7 DIY Mandala stone tool will work perfectly. The numbers on the tool are double what the millimeters are. So this 7 tool is actually a 3.5 millimeter tool. I want to leave enough space in between because I will be doing multiple dots on top of this. First color I'm starting out with is the DecoArt Americana Country Red. And if I'm just mixing a small amount of paint, I will use these rectangular paint palettes instead of using the pots. And I'm using the number 7 DIY Mandala Stone Tool, which is a 3.5 millimeter tool, and doing 3 dots per section, leaving a nice space in between. Each subsequent row will be done with the next tool up. These increases are by 0.5 of a millimeter. So the last tool I used was a 3.5 millimeter, the number 7 DIY stone tool. So this next one will be a 4 millimeter, which will be the number 8 if you're using the DIY Mandala stone tool. In this row, I'll start to add the Georgia clay into the country red. I'll be doing this with each additional row to change the color from red to orange. In order to save my wrists, I'm going to use my smaller tattoo ink mixer. It's really helped so much. Sometimes there is a few bubbles, but it's great. All you have to do is just tap it on the table. The bubbles come to the top and they pop. In this row, I'm moving up to the next tool size, which is 0.5 millimeters higher than the one before. So I'm using the number 9 in the DIY Mandala stone tool. Again, I'm going to add a little bit more of that Georgian clay into the country red and continue on. As I'm getting lower in the paints, I'm going to add a little bit of the bright orange in, as well as the Georgia clay into the remaining amount of country red. Now the paint will start to turn a little bit more orangey, yellowy as we head out. Now I add a little bit more of the bright orange and carry on. So when I'm starting this 9th row, I'm finding just adding in the bright orange isn't going to lighten up enough. So I'm going to add a little bit of the DecoArt Americana Titanium White. I buy the titanium white in the larger container, and then I just put it in a squeeze bottle that I got at the dollar store. And it stays fairly well with a tight cap. At this point, I'm going to add some more of the bright yellow. Thought I should let you guys see my little mixer hard at work. As I'm getting to the outside of the record and doing the larger dots, I'm having to add more of the orange first and then come in with a bit of the bright yellow. When I'm at the last row, I don't actually have enough room to go up in tool size. I actually have to go down into tool size. And I'm going to make little teardrops. So I'm going to use a little pin-like tool to drag the dot out to make the beautiful teardrop shape. And just as easy as that, there's a teardrop. Now these dots have dried overnight, and we're going to go in and do a top dot with some DecoArt Crafters acrylic in a matte black. It's a little bit thinner than the Americana, which is fine because we're going to be doing multiple top dots. So I really don't want these bottom dots to be too puffy. So if you remember on the first row, we used a 3.5 millimeter tool, which is the number 7. So we're going to want to go one step down from there and use a number 6 tool, which is a 3 millimeter dot, so that we can do a little bit off center, not cover up that bottom dot. I try to get the top dot just slightly off center of the bottom dot. Now moving up to the 3.5 millimeter tool, we're going to continue the top dot on the right hand side. So we're going to do 2 rows on the right hand side and then 2 rows on the left hand side, and continue this pattern right through to the edge of the record. I'm going to speed this up. We just keep moving up 0.5 of a millimeter with the 2 dots on the right, 2 dots on the left until we get to the edge of the record. Now for the top dot on the teardrop, instead of going left or right, we're going on the outer edge of that teardrop. And once it was dry overnight, I used a kneadable eraser to remove the chalk marks before adding the last row of top dots. For the last set of top dots, I'll be starting again with the country red for the first 2 rows. Then as I move outward, I'll gradually add the Georgia clay and bright orange and yellow. I'm starting the first row of top dots with a 2.5 millimeter tool, which is a number 5 tool, and gradually moving up again by 5 millimeter increments as I complete each row. So now I completed the base of the sacred geometry with one color, top dotted with a black to give a little offset, and then top dotted again with the same colors going out, so it created some movement. So we've got the earth and the fire. Now we need the wind. I'm going to add some Peacock Teal and walking the dots in between the rows inward towards the label. So I walk the dots with the 3.5 millimeter Stylus tool 5 rows in. Now I'm going to switch to a 1 millimeter and continue right into the label. And the final dot between the outer row is done with a 3.5 millimeter tool, the number 7 on the DIY Mandala toolkit. I chose to accent with the Peacock Teal because I thought it would be a very complementary color with the orange. I hope you like it. And here's the finished record. I'll probably seal this one with a satin varnish from Liquitex. Drop me a comment if you have any questions or want to suggest any future color palettes. Thanks so much for dotting along with me. If you love this transformation, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and share it with a friend. Until next time, keep calm and noble on.